My name's Aziza. I run General Assembly in Singapore. We're a tech education company and we try to bridge the gap between traditional education and what modern employers want. So I think education in general is something that's very important and something everyone should aspire to. But it really depends on what kind of work you want to be doing, right? Like if you want to be a doctor or if you want to be a lawyer, that's quite a different kind of education. Whereas if you wanted to work in the new economy, if you wanted to do anything to do with digital or tech, if you want to be a web developer, UX designer, digital marketer, what employers look for is not so much the piece of paper that you have. It's more about the kind of skill sets that you have, the kind of portfolio that you have. I've met amazing web developers that have gone through programs like GA and some amazing web developers who've learned how to do it on their own as well. What we always tell students is that the best way to learn something is to build things. So when you go apply for a job, an employer is not going to be fascinated by this shiny piece of paper you have. Honestly, I can't remember where I left my degree. What they're going to be looking at is, okay, how active have you been? What kind of projects have you been building? Have you been contributing to open source? Have you been volunteering in the community to figure out, whether you're someone who might be a culture fit for them as well? Okay, so I was born in India. Okay, so we moved to Singapore when I was maybe 6 or 7 years old. I barely spoke English then. So in fact, every Saturday I would go for these classes at school where they would teach me how to enunciate and how to actually speak proper English. And growing up, the kind of family that I was from was very conservative. In my family, I'm the first generation of women to get a higher degree and also to go out to the workplace and work. So that was very scandalous when I did it. They were like, oh my God, what? You're gonna go work instead of getting married and having babies? Nothing wrong against those two things. I just think that I want to be doing both. So basically the thing that I feel allowed me to become independent is the fact that I'm economically independent, and a lot of that is owing to education. So I'm a huge believer that if you had the right kind of skill sets and the right kind of education, it's going to define your life. It can uplift your entire family. So education's always been something that's a huge part of what I've wanted to do. So the job before this, I was working for a finance education firm, and I was doing engagement and market expansion in about a few countries in emerging markets in Asia. So I helped set up our business in areas like Jakarta, Nepal, and Myanmar, and we'd be trying to get people to become more financially literate. And I'd always loved companies that were focused on education. And the question that would always plague me is, for example, 65% of children who go to primary school right now, they're going to be working in jobs that you and I have never heard of. When I was in school, if you weren't a lawyer or a doctor, the teachers would tell you that you're going to be flipping burgers somewhere. Nothing wrong with that either. But we were just never told about the kind of jobs that are out there, like a UX designer or a digital marketer or all of these other cool new things. So the question that's always been on my mind is, how do you train people for the new economy? And how do you train people with the kind of skill sets when you don't know what kind of jobs are going to be existing 10 years down the future? So when I saw General Assembly come out, I was a bit of a fangirl of what they were doing, and I loved their model. So one of my friends told me that, hey, GE is planning on setting up in Singapore, you should get in touch with them. So I started talking to them, and I was their first hire in Singapore. So I set up the company here, I set up the team here, and now here we are. One of the best skills to have is learning how to problem solve. Because what you're essentially doing day in and day out as a programmer is problem solving. The languages that you use, the tools that you use are merely that. They're resources and they're tools. Learning how to break down a complex problem and learning how to find a solution to it is really important. And I always like to tell all our programming graduates this, that when you're building things, do it with a lot of empathy. The kind of things that you create are gonna make people happy, or they could make people sad and do a lot of not so great things. There's a lot of power in technology. So I feel that when you're teaching people technical skills, it's really important to teach them, ethics and empathy as well. I wish I had more free time. That might be nice. But no, I try to spend time with friends and family. I love reading. And one of my guilty pleasures is probably, so I guess like last weekend I kind of binge watched Star Trek for a bit there. So that's kind of my guilty pleasure. And yeah,